This will be the last video before the next set releasing next week. So I'd like to showcase a game here between the two most oppressive force deck currently. The Lord does go first this game, riding the Decron here and passing turn. And the next stage actually just ride to the Chrono Tooth Tiger, which is the best ride for their turn 1. Jacking into a cup there. We do see a Lia 4 right here, which is the most promising grade 2 Lord does have now, aside from Mofessa, or not, aside from Matcha actually. So searching for the Charon here, which will actually Soul Blast the grade 1 in the Soul, filling up the drop zone, as well as doing a counter charge, as well as hitting a 3k extra buff, which might help if you're going second, but in this case I'm going first. The 3k doesn't really matter. And I do actually call the Matcha there, using its skill to call another Charon, which will Soul Blast and counter charging one more time. This will allow me to hit magic number there. And I actually do call the Abyssal Hour using its counter blast skill to draw additional 1 card. So it's a very strong turn to play. Matcha will swing first with a 10k guard, avoiding the quick shoe there. But he does eat a damage trigger here, which will nullify what has been done. But I do actually a critical trigger here, which is a 15k guard still, given his damage trigger. And he does eat to a draw trigger here, as well as another critical trigger. That's 3 damage trigger right there, very strong. And he does draw 1 additionally for the Chrono Tooth Tiger skill. Riding into a cup here, and we will be seeing the new promo here, the Rebu. So what it does is actually when you do discard it, you can actually superior call it by Soul Blasting 1, and then returning 1 normal unit from the drop zone to the bottom of the deck, and then you draw 1 card. And not forgetting the actually additional 5k power it does have. So it's very strong card, and actually it does help during the next stage turn, which will be showcased in the games today. And we do see another a cup skill drop here, so it will be a triple drive in the middle. The Smoke Gear will be hitting for a 10k guard. And we do throw a 15k shoot there, and it will be a triple drive no guard, a heal trigger right off the bat, very strong player. And a critical trigger at the third one, very strong. And I do eat to a draw trigger here, which will come in handy. And forcing a 25k guard at this turn. But just nice, I do have a Matcha which I am willing to intercept. And I actually do ride to the drag driver here, but nothing to be concerned of because it still have the search going on, but unfortunately only 1 search. But I do actually superior call the Knight of Strict Order Souls here, which is actually a very decent turn 1 aggression because it's a 20k beater on its own if you have a full field of grade 1. And Professor will be swinging first, it will be a 15k guard, and using his skill, will be super calling another grade 1 from the drop zone, which is most likely Nis on the Decron, which was actually Soul Blasted on the first ride. And open a draw trigger, pumping power to the Abyssal Hour. And then a 15k will be force here. And the 30k will be required on the other column. Very much reliant on Knight of Street Order there. So one play style of Lord currently is actually to play towards this 20k beater, or the other one, which is the more infamous one, which is actually the Apocalypse Bat version. But actually I do prefer this Knight of Street Order playstyle because it's less setup reliant, and you do push a decent amount on the first ride. So we do see actually riding to the Chrono Jet here, giving the force marker to the Smoke Gear column. And because of Smoke Gear, anything he throws, it will be a free strike basically, and he does strike into the next stage. We will be able to see the multi-battle performed by the new promo, which is the Steam Maiden Rebu. And not forgetting, he still have the cup on the field, which will allow the next stage to be a triple drive. He swings with the Smoke Gear first, which is a 15k guard right off the bat, which will be Soul Blasting 1 to draw additional 1 card. And swing the next stage here, most likely I'll be throwing a 15k here for a 2 pass. Actually throw a Kanzen right off the bat, very bossy play. Triple drive blank, very unfortunate for him. dropping the Chrono 2 Tiger as well as the reboot here. So if you do realize the discard tool is very much compensated by the two rearguard skills, each of them will allow the player to actually draw one card. So basically not actually dropping any hand size at all, instead you are netting 2 extra cards because of the additional twin drive you'll be getting through the Chrono Jet. And having the 2 markers on the reboot column is easily asking for 25k guard. It does swing with the card column first, which will just be a 10k guard, and thanks to the crown on the field, I can intercept easily, saving hand size on my end. And he does swing with the Chrono Jet here, shall be no guarding. Unfortunate, no trigger there once again for the Chrono Jet player. And swinging face is the correct move, and I do see 2 therefore going to the damage there. And I finally do have my drag heart here. Marker to the side. Using the skill to actually retire 2 of my Charon there to draw 1 to retire his account, which is a very valuable unit for GC during his aggressive turn. Returning the Charon there as well as the Abyssal Hour. Superior riding to the Drag Driver here, gaining yet another Force marker. And with the Counter Blast one, I can actually search for 3 Great Ones this time round. Which will be another Knight of Street Order once again. I'll say a tech card, which is a Magduba. Sorry for the mispronunciation of the name. So basically what it does is actually a drop draw, but a drop Great One to be exact. And then you can actually have a unit to plus 5k power, which I'll be doing right here. So using his skill, I do drop the Great One and drawing 1 card, giving the 5k to Mofessa, so you'll be hitting for more magic column, which is a 25k guard, requiring 2 cards to guard, and given that it's already at 5, this will force 2 cards easily right off the bat. A Kanzen actually dropped right off the bat. A very heavy guard requirement. Offensive skill. Going into the Charon here, given that there is no more counter blast to be using, and I do want to sustain for the next turn. And I do swing the Drag Driver here, which will be hitting for a 46k column. Very high attack, and he does throw the second Kanzen right away. I do get a critical trigger here. And this will allow both columns to be hitting for at least a 40k guard. Do let me know in the comment section below if what you guys suggest for a lot of players is how do you guys actually spread the markers, because sometimes I feel that you can't actually stack all in one, but at the same time, what is the magic number of force marker you want to have on one column? Is it 2 or is it 3? And we do see into the next stage strike once again for the Chrono Jet player. And actually calling the Steam Maiden Nabu there. Actually 2 Steam Maiden Nabu, which is a very sneaky card because it does require you to use only triggers from hand. And it requires 30k guard, but because of the Chron, I can actually use the intercept of the Charon. I'll be dropping a PG right off the bat. Another twin drive non-trigger here. But he does have the Steam Maiden reboot as well as the Chrono Tooth Tiger once again. Sorry, Chrono Tooth Tiger. The last force marker will be placed in the middle, which will be allowing it to hit for a power of 43k. Very sick number. And he does draw 2 extra cards, making him a net 2. And he does swing with the Steam Eater Nabu first, which will be a 10k guard. Very fortunate for me because of the Chron. I can actually guard that column. And he does swing with the Chrono Jet with your 5k and a Sentinel guard restrict, allowing for no guard to happen, and he does open a crit, and this is game over for game 1. Now we proceed to game 2, and the Lord will go first once again, given that he lost the previous game. Writing to the Charon there, and no Chrono Tooth Tiger for the GC player here. But he does hit the Chrono Jet there, which is a very decent hit, because the deck does only run for grade 3s, and having multiple Chrono Jet in your hand is always good. And he does drop the quick shield for the requirement, for the cost, swinging the Vanguard like this. And the Lia for right once again, very consistent. I have decided not to call this Night of Strict Order and will be going for the Magduba, because I do need to fill up the drop zone count as much as possible. Sorry for the replay there. And dropping the Charon here. Then draw 1. And swing with the Magduba straight up like this. Swing the Liafo for 15k. Sadly, no critical trigger here to punish, but he does open a huge trigger. Very talented player right there. He does right to the card once again, and the card will allow for easy twin drive. And will we see the Steam Maiden reboot once again here, which is a very sick combo to be doing. And he does have it actually. So blasting the Steam Breath, and then putting the other card back to the bottom deck, draw 1. And not forgetting the additional 5k power. And putting it with Smoke Gale will create a 20k column right off the bat, and Steam Maiden Nabu will go for the guard restrict here. And apologies for the misplay here, and I actually do notice right off the bat. So I do throw a critical trigger instead. And I'll be no guarding here, which he does open a critical trigger here, very painful, and I do not open any damage trigger here to compensate for the damage. And most likely this will push me to a comfortable 4 damage for him. And this will be my turn. Will I be able to make a comeback? And I do right to the Drag Heart Lord here, putting the first marker to the side. Going for the Abyssal Owl play here, to corner blast 1 to draw 1 additional card. Actually sacking off the 2 great ones to actually draw 1 more card, and this is a very confident play by me, because if you were to do this in the current meta for Lord, it just signifies that you actually have a hand full of great ones to be able to fully commit to the 5 great 1 count on the field. And I choose to throw Magduba and Charon back to the deck. Going for the Drag Driver Lord, sorry. Gaining yet another force marker. Counter blasting 1 to superior call 2 great ones from my deck. One of it being Charon, since I already used up 3 counter blasts. And you definitely need to do resource manage very well for Lord currently. And I'll be calling the Night of Strict Order once again, because it does pretty well if you never commit the force marker on the other column, and you'll make sure that the column does hit pretty hard still. And I'll be soul blasting the great one from my soul, counter charging 1 with the Charon. And I'll be calling Lia 4 here. We should be super calling the Mofessa because Mofessa does count as a great one in the deck and the field if you do have a driver, if you do have a Lord Vanguard. And I do commit the second Knight of Street Order onto the to the same column as the Knight of Street Order, making it a 40k column just like that. And if you do make the quick math, basically, it's actually a 35k guard on the grade 2 player. It does into a damage trigger here, very not much needed for him because he does need to guard. And I'll just say a heads up misplay here. I shouldn't have committed the Nightmare Painter there. I do actually have the Cron in my hand, which allows for the intercept. And by committing that into the field, I will have additional 20k guard of 20k worth of shield on the field to be accessible. But because of the misplay there, it probably might have cost me the game. Just open to another damage trigger here, and that being a draw trigger, which allows for a very simple guard for the supposedly big Knight of Street Order column. This will require a 25k guard because he's hitting for 51k power. Because he does eat 2 damage trigger here, the power does definitely drop a lot. How will the Chrono Jet actually make a comeback here? And given that, as ironically as it sounds, Chrono Jet does benefit from going second because of the next stage. And next stage does require the opponent Vanguard to be grade 3, similar to the restriction that Mordred and Gunslot have before in the previous sets. And we do see a Steam Maiden on Nabu committed here. And he does commit the Chrono Jet to the rear column, and I must say that rear guard does actually do a lot because of the rear guard effect, which actually does have the guard restrict still, and he can actually just put force markers onto the rear guard Chrono Jet later. But he does swing the Nabu first, forcing a 20k right off the bat, which dropped me quite a number of shield, and because I do not have the Cron here, it does cost me a triple drive, but he does open a draw trigger here. Power to the side, and we do see the Steam Maiden reboot once again. This card is always seemingly in his hand and very consistent, and actually does drop 2 of them here instead in this game. And because of how flexible reboot is, you can actually put it to boost your Vanguard as well as create another attack onto the force marker column, similarly to how Mofessa is. So that's why I say these 2 current decks in the meta are very strong for force, at least in my opinion, compared to decks like Messiah and other force decks. But we do see Genesis making a comeback soon in the next future set. He does swing the Chrono Jet here, which will be no guarding. He does open a critical trigger here, which will be pushing me to 5, but a very lucky heal trigger here, which helps me to secure off the lethal, and which allows me to no guard here once again, pushing me to a very bad situation, 5 damage. And I'll be riding here to the Drag Hard Lord once again, putting yet another marker, killing off 2 great ones to sack off the most likely the Chrono Jet rearguard, because like I mentioned just now, it's a very strong rearguard. And now I'm considering what to return, because I do not want to return wrongly. Always make sure you count out all your drag drivers as well as Mofessa for all the Lord players out there. And now I do have the correct amount here, so I do superior right to the drag driver here, and gaining yet another force marker, counter blasting 1, and I should be able to superior call 4 rearguards here. And I do superior call the Morfessa, the Decron, and the Abyssal Owl here. And the Abyssal Owl is very much needed here because you do want to Soul Blast the Drag Driver in your soul to ensure that you do have a Drag Driver in your drop zone for the next turn. Drawing 1 additional card as well. And I do swing the Vanguard first because he's at 3 damage and I do want to push him to 4, which will force him to guard for the 2 rearguard columns I have, which does gain the critical trigger thanks to Drag Driver. And he does throw 45k worth of shield here, which will be a 2 to pass. And the first check, I do drag check a critical trigger here, which I'll be pumping the critical to the Morfessa in case I do not get a second trigger, and the power to the middle, because if I do get 2 power, I will be able to push him to 4, which is what I intended to do. But Morfessa is swinging for 3 crits right off the bat, and he'll be throwing the Kansen right off here. And Morfessa will be changing into another Great One in the drop zone. A Nis at that, and it will be Soul Blasting 1 to actually just further bombing his rearguard. Just to be annoying, actually, it doesn't really do much. As we can see here, the double Knight of Street Order and the double force marker on that column is a very high power, and this will most likely conclude the game, and it's game over for game 2. We move on to game 3. Will the Lord player actually take the game 3 victory, or will we see a comeback from the next stage? And the GC will go first this game, riding into the Chronicle Tiger here, which is the best right target for GC. Who doesn't love extra draws? And I'll be calling the Abyssal Owl here, which does allow you to actually Soul Blast 1 for the cost instead of the Counter Blast 1. And I do call the Nis here, which will actually just push for damage right off the bat. And because, you know, Lord does need to fill out the drop zone eventually, and calling down Great Ones early game will not hurt you at all. He does draw additional card through the Tiger skill and running into the Cup once again. And he does have the reboot to go along with it as well. Very strong player. Pushing it up to actually continue the aggression against me because, you know, he is going first after all in this game. And he does call the Steam Breath Dragon here, which does have an additional 5k power because he did discard a card this turn. And both of them are hitting for 13k rears. Both are 13k rears, which will hit above the quick shield because both of them does require a 10k guard. Given that I'm on Nightmare Painter. And I do throw the guard for the first attack, not knowing that he does swing with the Steam Breath once again here. And I do it to a draw trigger here. And to guard against the middle Vanguard, I do throw a quick shield, which will be a 2 to pass. And it's my turn. And we do see a right into a layer 4. And we'll be super calling the Charon once again, which is basically essentially a free rearguard because I do get to fill up the drop zone because of the Soul Blast 1, as well as counter charging. So basically almost no resource was used. And I will be clearing off the Steam Breath Dragon because Steam Breath Dragon is after a 13k booster, which is very strong. And I'll be keeping up the aggression because I do need to push damage after all, but he does eat into a huge trigger here. And I'll be swinging the Vanguard, not getting a trigger here, so the damage does not go through. So one could argue that I should actually swing at the rear because, you know, it's not worth to gamble the trigger there. But if I do open the critical trigger here, it'll be pushing into 3 damage. And when I do go for my Grade 3 turn, it might be lethal then. But we do see him riding into Grade 3 here. And as I mentioned in my second game, Chrono Jet does benefit from going second because you actually can super ride into the next stage and using his skill right off the bat. But because I'm not on grade 3 for the Shadow Paladin player, he actually does go for the Metallica Phoenix here, and which will be simply doing a simple triple drive check. And he does have the cup there, which will allow him to actually go for the quad drive. So super scary if he can open quite a number of triggers. So we do see him calling the Steam Breath Dragon here, boosting a Nabu lane, which will be hitting off a 35k power right off the bat without counting any triggers in, and that will be a 35k guard required for me, and all of them have to be grade zeros. So he does swing with the cup and the Steam Maiden lane, which will be a 10k guard. And I do actually eat damage here. And I do drop a Kanzen because it's a quad drive after all. And we do see a double critical as well as a huge trigger there. And this will most likely push the 3 damage to me. Given that I already dropped a PG for the Vanguard, so this will be a simple no guard, pushing me to a very danger zone of 5 damage. And as you can see, actually 2 drag drivers does go into the damage zone. So this is very scary for me because I will have limited drag drivers to superior right into. I do right into the drag heart here. Deciding where to put the first marker, but it wouldn't matter because both columns are pretty flexible in my opinion. And now I'm contemplating whether I should give in a damage because I'm actually in a very bad spot. And I do only have 2 grade 1s in the drop zone, so I do need to pay the counter blast for the superior right. Because you do -1 counter blast for each grade 1s, and it's actually an original counter blast tree. So I do superior call the Cron here because I do need to up my defense. And I'm superior calling the Abyssal over here to draw further into my deck. And actually opting to use the counter blast here because I do have quite a number of counter blasts to work with. And I do swing at the side because I do want to damage deny, and I do open a critical trigger here, which is kinda awkward in my opinion, and I forgot to put a marker, so better late than never. And actually I do open a heal here, which allows me to feel more comfortable because especially I do heal the drag driver into my drop zone, so I decided to push the damage to him instead of damage denying. And he does eat to 4 damage, and this does create a lethal zone for me because in the next superior right, my rear guards does become a base critical of 2. And we do see him dropping the next stage here and superior riding into the next stage dragon. And we do see him actually commit the grade 3 Chrono Jet rearguard, which I mentioned in my previous game. It is a very strong and yet underestimated rearguard. He does swing the next stage column, which is actually a 15k guard because of the base power of the next stage. A 15k will be a 2 pass here. He does power confidently to the side because the side does have the guard restrict, and I'm actually at 4 damage, so it's a very haste up move from him. And he does go back to the Chrono Jet, actually putting the marker to the column. And actually that column is already hitting for 71k power, and that will be requiring me a 60k guard raw shoe without a Kanzen. And I do a confident no guard here, not getting a critical trigger here, very unfortunate for him. And I do have the 60k shoe ready for him, especially because the help of the Dekron. So the Dekron is actually a super good grade 1, and I do recommend it in all lot builds. And I do right into another drag driver here, sorry, a drag hut here, gaining yet another force marker, and I do a confident sacking off 2 of my rear guards to draw 1, mainly to sack off the grade 3 Chrono Jet there. And because at this point, I will be able to superior call 4 grade 1s, which is a very high amount, and instantly filling up the board. Getting yet another force marker, and I do put to the side, counter blasting 1. And I will be mass calling most of the Knight of Street Order here because I'm going to push for game. The first Knight of Street Order is called, the second is called. A Mofessa, as well as the Abyssal, and I've mentioned in the previous game just now, Abyssal is usually superior called to Soul Blast the Drag Driver in your soul to set up for the next turn, because you do need it in your deck drop zone so you can return it later with the Drag Hard skill. Mofessa skill does activate, allowing me to superior call 1 grade 1 from the drop zone, and I'll be superior calling the Charon here, which the power doesn't really matter, but it's mostly for the counter charge you're aiming for. And I do swing with the Knight of Street Order first, because he's currently at 4 damage, and both of my grade 1 rear guards are hitting for a base crit of 2, so I do want him to hard guard currently before he does aim for the 5th damage trigger there if I were to swing my Vanguard, and he does, and if I don't open a critical trigger. And there's 50k guard required there, so most likely he does not have any shields left in hand, and this should be game. And there's no guard here, and this is game over. Thank you for watching till the end, and do consider subscribing if you do enjoy the content.